So, you want to be a contractor. Ever wonder what it takes to become a contractor? The journey they go on to get where they are now, or the crazy things they see and hear on the job site? Well, you're in the right spot. Welcome to So You Want to Be a Contractor, the podcast. Join your host, Mike Fisher, as he talks to owners of construction companies from all over about how they got started, how they run their business, and some of the craziest stories they've experienced on their job sites. And now, your host, Mike Fisher.
Welcome to So You Want to Be a Contractor. This is episode number 38. My name is Mike Fisher, co-host over there, Marisela Arechiga. How are you?
I am doing great. Mike, you are getting so good at saying my name. It just rolls off your tongue now. Happy, what is it? It's Wednesday. We are nearing towards the end of October. Halloween is right around the corner.
It's a little crisp now. No more.
It's a little. I'm getting warm coffee instead of cold coffee. The seasons are changing, my friends.
All the pumpkin spice lattes. All of them.
All the pumpkin spice lattes.
Our guest today, Salvador Hernandez, president and founder of Pacific Breeze Landscape. Salvador, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, sir. It is pretty cold out here, too. We're in Huntington Beach. And just got done doing a quick surf session.
I was going to say, you mentioned that you say that you typically surf in the mornings. I feel like it's got to be a little chilly out there right now, no?
My wife and I just recently had a baby, so it's difficult for me to go surfing, so I try to find an opportunity when I can.
Yeah, congratulations and welcome to the rest of your life. Is that your first child?
That's my second child, actually. It's I have a 17-year-old and a 4-month-old.
Okay, so there's a little bit of a break.
I was going to say, it sounds like my life.
More like a little lot.
Are you getting any sleep?
We're going through sleep training right now, so no.
Okay. I have the craziest sleep training story that I'll share some other day. But force be with you, Salvador. Congratulations again that you found the time to go surfing this morning and you are running a business. I can't wait to get into the stories of how you're making all of that happen.
Right on.
Yeah. So on that, tell us what you do. What does Pacific Breeze Landscape do, and then take us back to the beginning and let us know how you kind of got into all of this.
So at Pacific Breeze Landscape, we are basically a design and build company. What that means is we take on clients that are looking to, renovate their outdoor living space and basically take it from nothing or something that's already existing and transform it 100%. And we run the client through the entire conceptual process. We design the yard. We take care of like any permits or engineering that's required, and we build it, whether that be a pool, a patio cover. Basically, your dream backyard is what we help our clients do. I started. Are you guys more on the labor side, or are you on the design side rather, or do you guys have all the labor in house as well? All the labor is in house. So we have designers in house, and we have the crews in house.
Yeah, that's a lot. So take us back to the beginning. How did you get into this industry, and what brought you to where you are now today?
So I actually started with my dad. I guess you can say, if you go back to the very beginning, is my dad and I used to mow lawns in the city of Huntington Beach. We were mow and blow, and I grew up with my dad doing that. He was your mow and blow guy, your gardener. And after the military, back in 2012, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So a couple years after I got out, I told my dad, I'm like, hey, why don't we start something, but get licensed as a contractor and do like some landscape projects, right? One thing led to the next. I got my license, but once I got my license, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, to be honest. So basically, I sort of fell into the design and build after like 2 or 3 years, because it became a niche. you know. So beginning, it was just little projects here and there, softscape, and then there was a demand for like the bigger projects, and decided to, you know, tackle them on, and that's evolved into what we are now.
What area of the military did you serve, first of all?
I was going to say, let's pause for a second and thank you for your service and chat about that for a little bit.
I was in the Navy. I did 9 years in the Navy. I was stationed down in San Diego. I did a couple deployments. I did a tour in two tours in South America, doing counter-narcotic operations, and one tour in Afghanistan.
Wow. And 9 years isn't no cheap, like you did, it's not one and done at 9 years, like you signed up again. Did that feel like a career move, or was it just like your job wasn't finished yet?
Honestly, I wanted, at the time, I wanted to be a little bit more involved with church, and at my church. So the military taking me away and taking me places just wasn't really lining up with what, with you know, trying to do my duties in church, you know. So that's why.
Can you add some texture to that? So you're in the military, you're serving in Camp Pendleton, you're down in San Diego.
I was down in San Diego, down in NAB, Naval Amphibious Base.
Yep.
Okay. Typically, people, servicemen and women are doing 4-year stints. You go 9 years.
Right.
Is it just you're exploring? You haven't figured out, you know, what you want in terms of staying in the military, coming out of the military? Because your 9 years is Salvador. I was
committed. I was committed. I was going to make it a career.
You were going to make it a career.
I was going to make it a career.
You were going to make it a career.
I just kind of 10 years is like you're that point where you're like, hey, am I done?
Yeah, you stick it out, or you move on.
Do I continue? You know, so yeah.
And so what I'm hearing though is towards the end there, you were being called to something different, and the military wasn't giving you the space to go with your church.
Right, pretty much.
Okay.
You know?
Got it.
So that's why I was like, yeah, you know. And then at the time, you know, my wife at the time, she was kind of like over it too. You know, she had been with me pretty much my entire military career.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
Okay. So are you born and raised in Orange County? You're in Huntington Beach now. That's where you operate your business out of, right?
Right.
Are you born and raised in the OC?
I'm born and raised in OC. That's correct. But now I live on Long Beach.
Long Beach is great. Love Long Beach. Pine Street.
So military going down to San Diego wasn't a long move for you. It was an easy little.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. It was a 2-hour drive. You know.
Yep.
You get into this industry, or you get your first exposure into the industry by, like, you know, helping your dad who was a gardener, right? Was this like over the summers? I think about my gardener, and over the summer he has his boys out there helping him on Christmas break. His boys are helping there. What did that look like with you and your father?
That's exactly what it looked like in the wintertime, in the summertime. My dad would bring me to work, you know, and, you know, it's funny because it's like my dad would do all the hard work, you know. I would like eat his donuts and like take a nap, you know what I mean? I would nap in the truck, you know. But
that sounds like my son.
I think it's the exposure, just being exposed to that environment and being around it was kind of like later down the road a trigger for me to be like, you know, I could build something out of this. And
what were you thinking at the time? Did you even have any kind of depth growing up and seeing your dad? Because I grew up in a small agricultural community.
Right.
My parents used to take us out to the fields, not my whole life, but there was definitely summers where they took us out to the fields to work. And I was like, oh, hell no. What is the opposite direction of this? Because those are really hard lessons. Like, that's hard freaking work. I was like, okay, if I go to college, I don't get to do this. I'm going to college was a message for me. What was that like for you?
So So yeah, so like it wasn't like when I was a kid, I was like, oh, this is gonna be my dream job. I'm gonna build a business out of this. I was like, no, I want out. Like I want to get out of this. I want to get out of the poverty cycle, you know, and which is why I joined the military. You know,
excellent, got it.
And the military was my out. What a lot of people don't realize is how many benefits you get after you get out of the military. So the military essentially.
You want to highlight that real quick? There might be somebody listening. Name the biggest benefits that you've received at this point.
So my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, all paid for by the military.
Goodness gracious.
The discipline, being able to purchase your house with a zero down, with having not to pay no PMI, you know, benefit, you know. My injuries that I sustain while on active duty, I get covered. I get my disability for that too, you know. So that in itself, like, people don't realize, like, having that on top of like me of running the business, you know, that's a good incentive.
That's incredible. Salvador, you got your entire education up to your master's degree paid for, zero debt. That's incredible. Zero and debt. You know what? So quite frankly, for your service, thank
bare
God.
Minimum. Yeah.
Bare minimum.
Yeah.
Bare minimum. Okay. Sure. So you come out the military. How long is it taking you? Are you doing your master's while you're in the military, or like how many years? Because I'm kind of picking up on this trend of like, you were trying to figure out what to do. Where were you going to put the stamp?
I got out and I'm like, look, I still want to do something military related. So I wanted to be law enforcement. So I got out, I applied to all these law enforcement agencies and nobody was picking me up. And I guess there was something in my record that like I had an expunge or whatever that was affecting that. Right. But I didn't realize till later down the road. So I'm like, all right, I couldn't get into law enforcement. So I started looking for a different career, and I started looking for work. You know, I went and worked for a forklift company. Then I went and worked for a friend in a weapons company, and I just jumped around from job to job. You know, but at the same time, while I was doing that, I was using my GI Bill, going to school, finishing my bachelor's, and the incentive of using your post 9/11 GI Bill is that you get money for housing. So my housing allowance was being paid for. You know what I mean? So that was pretty
incredible.
So basically, as I'm discovering like what I wanted to do is when, like, you know, I had the epiphany of like, hey, I want to start my own business, because that's what I was in anyways. Like, I was in my bachelor's program for business management and my master's program. So it happened to coincide that I was doing my MBA as I was building my business.
Awesome.
You know?
That's awesome.
Awesome.
And all the while, was your dad running his gardener business still?
Yeah, my dad was still running his little gardener business. You know, he was doing his thing. We didn't like come together until like 2016, where I basically took what he had and I pretty much built a little bit on that. I added more maintenance accounts for him, and that's how we started. And then we started to get the bigger jobs, and then I let go of like the maintenance, and then we started.
Were you doing anything on your own before 2016, or was that those kind of the school and the odd jobs here and there?
As far as related to this industry,
like landscape business,
no, okay. I was not.
So
doing it.
You went kind of job to job while you're finishing your school, getting all that stuff done. 2016 hits, your dad's business is still going. You say, Dad, I got some ideas. Let's rework this a little bit, and kind of transition this into a construction and design build company. Is that kind of how that transition?
That's kind of how it went. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And that's smart too, right? Because he's got probably a Rolodex of hundreds of people that he's worked with before, right? That it's easy for you to then, and I imagine this is probably one of your first steps was, hey, we mow your lawn, kind of trim your hedges. Do you have any design work or construction work.
Yeah, it's a warm lead.
Front yard
it's a warm lead
that you're looking to do. Is that kind of how you got that business rolling a little bit, or was there something else?
So I sort of penetrated the market through the maintenance side, right? Like I said, so the gist of it is, when it was exciting when I landed my first like $2,000 job, right? Some irrigation, some plants, and some grass. And I was like, oh man, like this is the most I've ever landed, like it was so exciting. And so from that, what ended up happening was I was sort of forced to where I'm at, right? By the demand.
What do you mean?
So
what do you mean?
I'm gonna explain. So so we're doing softscape. Softscape is basically planting, irrigation, grass, all that. But clients wanted to also have me do some of the hardscape, right? Which is concrete, pavers, yada, yada. And I was like, well, I don't do that, I'm like, you're going to have to find a contractor that does that. Well, these other contractors that were doing both.
Right.
So I'm like, oh man, like
how many times did you say I don't do that before you finally said, fuck it, I'm gonna do it?
Yeah.
It was like 2 or 3 times, and then I'm like, I need to hire somebody, So yeah, it was a couple of times, and I'm like, all right, we do pavers, and I'm like, I'm like, I have no idea how to do pavers. So
Salvador Hernandez, I'm a yes man.
And that's what it was, man. And I was like, yes, sir, we do that too. And a lot of it was my dad. My dad was just like, just tell him yes, tell him yes, tell him yes. Yeah. But like, I was putting all this trust in my dad, right? I was like, oh, my dad said, yeah, let's do it. And then,
but you had also just gotten your MBA, so you probably are a little bit, cautious when it comes to that. Like, hey, let's run this business the right way. We don't need it.
So it took me like 1 or 2 times for my dad to tell me yes. And then I was like, you obviously never handled this kind of work before. So, my dad became outgrown really quick, Yeah. So, it took me to figure out, I had to hire somebody, right? Yeah. So I hired my first.
So, but at this point, Salvador, it's you and your father that are running the maintenance side until you decide I'm doing pavers. I'm going to get into the hardscape. Is it at that point that you start to go ahead?
No, my dad stayed on board. My dad's still on board. He's an employee now of the company.
Whew.
That's awesome.
So we went from doing softscape. He was pretty much taking care of all the maintenance stuff. I was out there
what were you doing?
Getting quotes done, pursuing the business, all that. And then when it came to certain projects, like obviously it was me and him. We knock out the projects. I'd go home, do my estimates, I set a day aside to go do estimates. Like I was working it in.
So you were the sales. You were doing the sales for the team. And again, at this point in the business, Salvador, is it you and your father only, or are you bringing on employees?
It's me and my dad only.
It's you and your dad. Then you go into hardscape, and you're like, okay, need to bring somebody in.
Some people that know what they're doing.
At the beginning, when we did the hardscape, I outsourced it. I just subbed it out.
Okay.
And then I realized like this is not working out because we're not making a lot of profit from subbing it out. So one of the guys from the sub, he was like, I'm not happy here, this and that. Do you have any work for me? I'm like, I sure do have work for you. You are welcome to come on board, So he came on board and he's my main foreman now. Like he's the main guy like that does everything. But at the time, that's why we started. I asked him, like, what do you know how to do? He's like, I pretty much know how to do anything masonry and pretty much anything masonry. Like, I'm game, And I was like, all right, let's start quoting walls and let's start quoting barbecues and all that, And, and I relied on him a lot to tell me, hey, like, I would go, like, hey, Richard, like, how long does it take to build this this planter or this wall or this barbecue? And he'll tell me like, oh, it'll take me roughly around this much. And then I'll just write down my numbers. And that's how I started like figuring out and estimating, was like, I'm going to need, like, what material do I need? He's like, you're going to need rebar, you're going to need cinder block. I'm like, all right. So he was pretty much my teacher in the beginning and taught me, how, obviously he didn't know how to quote, but based on the information that he gave me, I was able to put that and translate that into a quote. And that's how one thing led to another,
Yeah.
So now we're a business that's doing softscape and hardscape, right?
Okay.
And now we reached the next obstacle. So we started getting a lot of calls here in Irvine. And most of your Irvine area, it's all HOA. And guess what? HOA requires design, right? So I'm like, I don't know how to design.
Permits, design.
I'm like, I don't know how to design. Like, I have no idea. I have no idea, like, how to design. I'm like, you're going to have to hire a designer, you know? And then clients, you know how California gets, right? Like, we want everything. We want it now. We want you to do everything. I'm like, so I was losing business again to contractors that did do the design and the build, you know?
Yeah.
So this is well after I had my master's. So I'm like, you know what? I need to put myself through a couple courses in community college and learn how to at least the basics of design. So I went back and I took a course in OCC under Lori Pullman. She's one of the horticultural gals there, and she pretty much, I took her class for design. I learned how to sketch and all that. And in the beginning, I was designing all by hand, and I was selling my little hand designs and sketches, you know, for a couple $100, you know, and people were paying it, you know, and I was like, oh, wow, okay.
So you taught yourself to design.
I freaking love that.
You taught yourself to design.
And not even just taught himself, like he took the time to like find a school and a class and a professional to like. Yeah.
So pretty much,
if you don't know something, go learn it, and I love that.
I self-taught myself how to design, and then it got to the point where I'm like, man, I need a software for this because we're submitting to HOA. Like, you need to change this, change that, blah blah. Like, man, I'm hand drawing these. I'm like,
my eraser,
like, this is done, you know, like this is it. This is it. So then we bought a software, and the software that we bought allowed us to render in 3D. So that's what really put us over the top.
Okay.
You know, at this point in time, when we got the software, I want to say we probably had like multiple projects going at once, probably like 3 or 4 projects. I had a couple crews already by then. I went from bidding out $30,000 jobs to being able to bid out to $300,000 jobs with the software.
Jeez.
Was that with the software? Was that also in conjunction with an additional scope, like, or is this just still hardscape, softscape? Are you doing pools at this point too? Because or is just the properties that big that they required $300,000 worth of softscape and hardscape? When are you?
It's not that the property is that big; is that the owners, they want like their dream yard, you know?
That lavish, yeah.
Yeah, you could have a 600 square foot yard and dump easily $500,000 into that.
I don't understand.
I don't either, but the
outdoor living, man. You got built-in barbecues and TVs and LED lightings. And,
I guess in my mind, I guess in my mind, I'm imagining like the property has to be, you know, 2 acres for it to, you know, quantify $300,000, or a pool plus hardscape. Because I know a pool there that's a big chunk of a budget, right? Yeah. So at this point, you're still doing hardscape. When did pools get added to your repertoire?
So through so the transition into the software, I was able to render in 3D, so clients were able to see like what their yard was going to look like prior to any installation period, right?
Okay.
So then the ability to be able to render that opened up new doors, because now clients were like, hey, do you do patio covers? Did I really do patio covers? No. Did I know somebody that did? Yes. Can I bring them on board and sub them out? Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's how that transitioned into that. So with the pools, the client was like, hey, I want a pool as part of my design. And I'm like, okay, do you do pools? I'm like, I sure do, because I know a pool contractor that I can bring on board to help me build the pool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Salvador, what I'm hearing, I'm just going to pick up on a couple of things that I'm hearing, is that you were listening to the market. That's number one. And that's from the very inception of the business, where you join with your father, you're doing it, you're listening to the market, and you're building your own menu of services through listening to the market, right? The second thing that I'm hearing is that you weren't afraid to learn. And I think that's a really important point, is that sometimes we get so fixed in this is what I do, this is what I don't do, and or I can't do that because I don't know how to do that. Whereas you took the posture of, I'm going to learn how to do that. Because it had to be in some degree interesting to you. You come from an educational background. You appreciate education. So it wasn't scary for you to go back in there. And then go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, and I'm saying that you knew that by doing this, it would add a tremendous value to your business in return.
Right. What I had to do is a cost benefit analysis, right? Is this worth it?
Which, let's just pause there for a second, because that's not something you hear a contractor say every day, right? Like, let me go check out my cost. I gotta run a cost benefit analysis real quick, right? Like most of these guys are like, well, this is what it costs me. And
I'm gonna put it in layman's terms.
I guess I make some money on it, so.
Okay, let me put it in a little bit more layman's terms. You gotta weigh your apples, right, and your oranges.
Yeah. No.
So basically, what I did was like, is it worth it for me to, let's say, build a patio cover, right? And if we make a mistake, right? Because mistakes happen. That's inevitable, you know? My entire life has been a mistake, and that's why I think I've been successful, you know? Because you cannot learn without making mistakes, period.
For sure. 1,000%.
You know? So it's like, all right, if I make a mistake, what's going to be my liability for that? And am I willing to pay for it, to learn from that mistake, right? Because that's how I took it. I'm like, look, I can bring on board this sub. And it's happened to me where I'm like, damn it, I bid it, and I bid it low, and I'm not going to make any money on it. But guess what? I'm learning how this guy's doing it. I'm learning his process.
Currency.
And in the future, I can take that, add it to me, and now I know. So for the future, let's say I charge 10 grand for this patio cover where I should have charged 20 grand, right? Now I'm like, okay, now I could charge 20 grand. I have a 20% wiggle room.
Yeah.
Done. You know?
Yeah. There's so much currency in making mistakes in any business, and especially in our business where some of there's a mistake that can happen even before you start the job, and that you bid it wrong, right?
Right.
And you don't know that until you're in the dance, until you're in the renovation, and that's painful, but there is currency. I see mistakes, failures as opportunities to grow, as opportunities to pivot. There is currency that it's only really a failure if you didn't learn from your previous mistake. And it sounds like the lens that you had on the mistakes that you were making as, well, this is what I paid for to learn that lesson.
Yeah. And I'm still learning, you know. We have meetings every week. Like recently we had a client that pretty big job. I think it was quoted at 225. And the client backed down, you know. And
why?
We as you grow as the owner, I stopped being involved, right? So I have my staff that is now running the operation. Right? I have 17 employees now.
Amazing.
So
Congratulations.
I have thank you. I have the people running the entire operation. So we have a meeting, and so what happened, right? And it boils down to the process. Like, what is our process from this step to this step? And what happened was that client was never put on contract, you know? So there was no skin in the game for her. So, and I'm like, I'm not mad about it. I'm like, hey man, like, what can we learn from this? So now what we're going to do is from the legal standpoint, I cannot ask for a more than $1,000 deposit.
That's right.
For a project.
That's right.
Which for a $225,000 job,
nothing.
Doesn't cover you.
Nothing. Nothing.
Nothing. Right.
Puts you out when they back out. It puts you out because you had that person lined up. That's where your crew was going to go.
And what happened is we designed her job, which she paid for. She paid for the design. Mm-hmm. We pulled all her permits. We did all her engineering, which she paid for.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm a contractor. I don't care about the design. I don't care about the permits and the engineering. I want the job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So then we had to have a discussion. I'm like, okay, what are we going to do for these bigger projects that we can't collect more than $1,000? Well, guess what? From the legal standpoint, I can't put her on contract for the work of the project. But so we've come to the point where we separated our design fee, our engineering and permit fee, and the construction fee. So mm-hmm. all these are three different things. Right. You don't have to move forward with me for the project if I design it for you. You don't. You could take those designs. Those designs belong to you, and you can go somewhere else.
Word.
You also don't have to move forward with me if I help you pull the permit and do the engineering. You don't. Mm-hmm. But guess what? What I'm going to do moving forward is I am going to take a 10% of the estimated part of the project to help you do your permits and your engineering. And then from that, the rest that is left over after your engineering and your permits are paid is going to be applied towards your project. If you decide to move forward with us. If you don't, that money is mine.
So wait a minute. I don't quite understand. All right. So you're going to design my landscape and you're going to charge me $1,000 for it? Or is it this is what the lump sum bid is for all three of these services, and you pay me a percentage?
So I have to separate them, right? So that they can't be part of the project, right? So
correct.
From the standpoint, so I'm designing your job, which is one fee, right?
Yep.
Now I'm helping you pull your permits and your engineering, right?
Yep.
So that's a separate service that I'm providing aside from the construction part.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Got it.
So for the engineering and permitting, the thing is that if you got to pull permits and engineering, you're investing a lot of time on this.
You are.
So at this point, I want you to give me a retainer of 10% of the actual cost of the job.
Got it.
Your incentive to moving forward with me is that I will apply some of that cost towards your project.
Yeah.
But if you don't move forward with me, you already paid me for my services of engineering and permitting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you're saying is if you've got a $300,000 job, you're basically charging $30,000 to do the design and the permits. And then if those designs and permits only cost you $10,000 to do, once they finish the job, the other 20 gets applied back to the rest of the job.
But the $20,000 get applied to the job if they move forward with me. If they don't move forward with me, then
the design and the engineering was $30,000 and you move on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's learning from your
Is it working for you though? I mean,
I
feel like that's one of those things
yesterday.
where like the customer might be like, that doesn't sound like, the way I want to do business. And going back to kind of listening to the market, right? Like if it's working, great. If it's not, you know what I mean?
We just discussed this yesterday, so we don't know if it's going to work.
We'll see.
I'm going to try it.
Salvador, let's talk a little bit about how you're set up. You touched on it a little bit. Gone are the days where it's just you and your dad. I love that your dad is still on board and working with you guys. I think that's really special. Can we talk about how you're set up now? Because it sounds like you've pulled your way out of like the day-to-day and you have staff and crew that are running the projects for you. What does that look like? How much do you have in terms of crews, and what does your overhead look like? Do you have a staff that's taking the inbound calls, doing the sales process for you? How are you set up?
Yeah, so we have staff that take on the calls. I'm still involved in my marketing. So my MBA that I have, it had emphasis in marketing.
Okay.
So I since the beginning I've been very involved with the marketing. So we got a Yelp account, we got a Google account, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, you name it.
Are you doing dances on TikTok? I'm going to Google this.
I was going to say, talk about that stuff because we love that stuff. That's new. That's not a typical contractor thing.
I don't mess around with the dances,
So I mean, you have the accounts, but what are you doing? What are you doing to be deliberate about being on those platforms and using them? And what is your thought process behind?
One of the things that I noticed from the TikTok standpoint is that they want to see raw. They want to just see that raw footage. You know, you can't have the professional photographer come out and take those photos or have that professional video, you know? So it's kind of like, oh man, that's a lot of work. So I have to tell my guys like, hey, I need you guys to be on Instagram doing stories, because I take those stories, I download them, and I create content for our TikTok, you know?
You're doing it yourself? Or you have someone incredible?
How many hours a week are you spending on that, or a day, or what?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't think I've done a TikTok like in a couple of weeks, but it's just overwhelming, you know. It's like, man,
it's a lot. It's a lot.
Honestly, dread. I'm like, man, I dread posting on TikTok, but I mostly focus on Instagram. But I've noticed the direction's going towards TikTok, you know.
But can I just ask, is TikTok where your clients are? Is that where they're playing now, or is it just another resume builder? Like, because I'm asking that because I'm not interested in going to TikTok. One, I'm just at a place now where social media is just so much more of a task. It's harder to keep up. But two, I don't want the people that are playing in TikTok are not going to be my ideal client. I know who my niche is. I know who my ideal clients are, and they're not hanging out at TikTok. Honestly, they're probably just barely.
You don't think so?
I know so. I absolutely know so.
I don't know. I don't know.
I absolutely know so. The ideal client for my company is hanging out still on Facebook, barely coming over to Instagram. And Instagram is more of that channel that builds my resume. For what we do, I'm certain that
my wife is 36-ish.
Yeah, but so Mike, my ideal client
right over there working from home, and she's probably
that's not cool, Mike. Right, that's not cool, Mike. You need to know your wife's age.
Born in '88. So what is that? 35. No, but what I was trying to say is she's on Instagram or on TikTok all the time.
Yeah, but I know my niche.
My mom is on TikTok all the time.
My niche client, and we can talk about this a little bit more. Who's your niche client? My niche client is over the age of 45, have lived in their home for over 15 years. Those are our ideal clients. Over 45 years, very typically at 55, but they're not making their decisions on their contractors on TikTok. I'll say that.
So here's the difference, and here's why it's tough. And I'm curious what your feedback has been on TikTok specifically, right? Because it's algorithm based, right? Mm-hmm. So even if your client is on TikTok, what are the chances that your video is breaking through to them, breaking through their algorithm to the point where they're actually seeing your content? That's what I don't think that. I think it's closed-minded to think that your client, your ideal client, isn't on TikTok. I think they are. I think it's tough to break through their algorithm because they're probably watching dog videos and kids getting hurt and all these other things.
Here's another thing.
Contractors.
Here's another thing is that they might not be on TikTok. They might be on Facebook. But some of the videos that are being shared now on Facebook and on Instagram
are directly from
TikTok.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
It's a great point.
So, with regards to me building like a client, to be honest, my followers on TikTok versus Instagram can't compare. Right now, I don't have that many followers, in my opinion, on TikTok. Mm-hmm. But I have had people reach out to me through TikTok and ask me certain questions, right? Now, you're talking about a niche. For me, my niche is in Coto de Casa, Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, Long Beach. Pretty much, I target the coast, right?
Yeah.
Because that's where the money's at, right? My client is not on Facebook. Why? Because a lot of that client that's still on Facebook, they're getting to the point of like retirement. They're to the point where like they're holding on to their money, right? Mm-hmm. My niche is women, of course, because the ones that want the landscape done and pretty is the woman. Mm-hmm. And so they're typically the wife, and they're typically anywhere between the age of like 25 to like 45. You know, so that is my TikTok. They're on Instagram.
They're on TikTok and Instagram. Yeah. And I would assume, Salvador, that they've lived in their home probably within 5 to 10 years. Under 10 years. No?
Mm-mm. A lot of them, they're like,
how do they own a home at 25 years old for more than 10 years, 5 years?
Sugar daddy?
or grew up in their parents' home or something like. Because I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I assume they're like a lot of these clients. They're at home moms, that want a. A lot of them are like at home moms that want a backyard for the kid and for partly for the kid and partly for entertainment. You know,
entertainment.
And
the
husband's like this big wig vice president of such company and making, you know, $500,000 a year, you know, and they could afford to dump $200,000 in their backyard, you know?
Yeah.
I get a lot of Costa Mesa clients. I get a lot of, Newport Beach clients, Coto de Casa. So.
I want to back up and from a bird's eye view, anyone listening to this, like we're having conversations around niche. Who is your niche? Who is your ideal client? I know mine. Salvador knows his. Mike Fisher knows his. And then positioning yourself to get in front of those ideal clients, whether it's TikTok, Instagram. Like, I think there's two really important things in running a successful business is knowing who your ideal client is. Because there's a lot of time invested in these clients on the pre-construction. Like, why am I going to court a client that I know isn't going to align with our values and how we deliver? That's number one. And number two, while Salvador, you listened to the market to understand what are the services that you're offering, it's important to like refine that, right? For us, when we first started our business, we were taking whatever we could get. And then we got to a place where like, we don't want to do this type of work for this type of client. So it's really refining your services offered so that it reflect where you want to go, what the trajectory of the business is, and who you want to serve. It's really important that we're thinking about those things because you don't think Amazon does that, right? Like these they absolutely do.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, who's your niche? Yeah. Like that's key to understanding the vision and the mission of your business. You know, it's who is your ideal client, and you know, I gotta say, I'm not your typical contractor, right? On top of the experience hands-on, like I went to school, I have the education, I have the military background. So I know the value on running on systems, on implementing, I don't know if you guys ever heard of EOS, you know? So like we're starting to implement EOS. I hired a business coach, you know? So for the last 2 years, I had a business coach to pretty much be my third eye and tell me what to do sometimes.
Yep. So, let's talk about business coaching because that is a big freaking deal. I have a business coach. We've had him it's an organization that supports us for the last 3 years, and they're helping us think about the business. And there's so much freaking value in having somebody come in unbiased, look at your numbers, and tell you this is where you're fucking up. This is where you need help.
This guy made me read like, I don't think I've ever read so much in my life. He made me read like 15 freaking books, you know? I'm like, dude, I'm done with freaking college, man. Like but it's the books that he recommended, you know, it's just so much value, you know? Yeah. By the way, is it okay if I mention him?
Of course. Yeah, of course. Of course. It's a resource.
His name's Jonathan Goldhill from the Goldhill Group. So for the last couple of years, you know, he's been helping me out. The reason why I approached him was because there's another landscaper up north, right? That that I'm a member, that we're members of the California Landscape Contractors Association, and he happened to.
Is that Justin?
Justin, yeah. Have you talked to Justin before?
He was on my podcast a long time ago, like over a year ago.
Oh yeah, so Justin, you know, like Justin is big time now. He's a big dog now. You know.
Well, it's funny. I only asked because I'm literally on your Instagram while we're going through this, and I noticed that he was he had liked a couple of your posts, probably because I follow him, so it just showed that he was liking your posts, and that's awesome. You guys connected though, because he came from a pretty rough background too, and he's built his business from his father too.
He took over. He took over from
pretty
his
crazy
dad.
too. Like they're pretty big right now, so that's cool that you guys were able to connect, and he was able to help you out because he's an awesome dude for sure.
So the same coach that helped Justin, I brought him on board, and I think from when I brought him on board, we were under $1 million. And this year we're going to close probably 2.2, 2.4 million.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
How much would you suggest that had to do with thinking about your business in a different way from the influence of Jonathan, your business coach? How much did your growth have to do with that?
I think he had to do a lot with it, mainly because it's about opening and expanding your mind, right? And I think in part, telling me what to do, telling me what to read, telling me what to adjust. When I hired Jonathan, we hired my old CPA, hired a new CPA. We went over all of our accounting. We restructured that, made it clean, cleaned it up, hired a bookkeeper, started implementing a couple more systems. He just brought so much more value. Like if I had an HR question, and even if he didn't know the answer, he knew where to get the resource.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's back up a little bit, right? Because you said he was. I want to clarify some language, right? Because you said he was telling you what to do, but for people listening, he's not telling you what to do, right? You're paying him. He's making suggestions based on what he's seeing. It still takes right. Well, but it still takes you to have a level of humility to make that change and listen to what he's saying, right? I mean, it's not like he's running your business, right? Like
no, he's not running my business.
Advice, right? So I mean, he can suggest things and tell you this is what I would suggest, but ultimately the decision and implementing that change is on you and your staff to move forward.
100%. So I had to make sure that I'm paying this guy to tell me what to do. I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like,
but there are plenty of people out there who will still pay people what
and they won't do it.
You know what? Never mind. No,
right.
This is how I've done it. Yeah.
And a lot of it was the testimony of Justin. I'm like, it worked for Justin. He's already worked with a landscape contractor, helped him get to that level. Like, why am I going to reinvent the wheel?
Yeah.
Totally.
Why fight it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Salvador,
was that how that decision? Because go back to the point where you decided to look into a business coach, right? Because again, that takes a level of humility and a level of like, hey, I maybe am not doing these things, the best way possible. Like, there's a decision making process there that's pretty heavy for a business owner to be able to kind of go that route. So was that something that you had decided on and then found out that Justin had this success, or was it through a networking group with Justin that you found that he had and then you went through that process?
So, I'm also a member of the California Landscape Contractors Association. This year, I'm the president of my chapter. I've been involved with CLCA for the last probably 4 to 5 years, I want to say. And the thing about having a peer group is that, the value in that is being able to have a network, right? Mm-hmm. Being able to have mentors. And I met Justin probably a couple years ago, and we were both on the same board for the President's Council. And one time I just pull him aside, like, hey man, I know that you're doing really successful, bro. Like, I hear good things about you. You were in the Landscape magazine, all this stuff, and tell me your secret. How can I, And he's like, and he just saying things here, there, and then business coach. I was like, business coach, huh? what's this business coach thing, you know? And so, I mean, keep in mind, like, I never ran a business before. Like, I don't know anything about wealth or success or any of that, man. Like, I grew up mowing lawns with my dad, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, here you have this dude that's saying, like, all right, cool. I'm like, and then I talked to the business coach, interviewed him, and he told me, I like, tell me about Justin, you know? He's like, well, we went from 1 million to like, now this guy's pushing like 20, 25 million, you know? So I'm like, yeah, I guess you're the guy.
I guess that sounds all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that. Salvador, talk to us. I want to also highlight again that it's your affection for education, for learning, that doesn't make you timid about continuing your education. And that's what a business coach is, but it is so refined because he's talking all about your production, your value, your position, your pivot. Like, I think that has a lot to do with us. And if some of us can take some of that, it'd be really impressive what we could do with our businesses. Talk to us about where your goals are. So it sounds like you've had some really impressive growth, especially after you partnered with your business coach. You took the direction, you acted on it. What do you see for your company? What are some of your short and long-term goals? Or have you found the sweet spot? Because some of us aren't trying to have $20 million business. I don't want a $20 million business, quite frankly. I just want enough so that, you know, I feel like I'm adding value to my market and can provide to my household. But what are some of your goals, short, long term?
In terms of short and long term goals, I think my long term goal is to eventually get to where we want to be and sell. I want to sell.
You want to sell.
I don't want to hold this. At the end of the day, a construction company is a risk. It's a liability.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
It is.
Or either sell or pass it down to my children, right?
I was gonna say, yeah, you got kids, right? There's a legacy there aspect of it. If they want, like my oldest, he's getting ready to go to college, and right now he's like, oh, I don't want the company. Like, I want to do my own thing. I'm like, you say that now, but I was gonna say,
sounds familiar. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, you tell him you told your dad the same thing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, my dad didn't really hand me much, you know. I mean, it was a good step, but I still had to build it to where we are today. Right. But as far as short term, you know, I'm talking up Jonathan a lot. But unfortunately, we have to part ways because he helped me out a lot, and now I'm going a different route that is pretty much within his lineup. I'm going to start implementing EOS. But I'm going.
Can you tell? So for people listening and don't know, can you tell us what that is? Be specific. How it's helping you?
EOS is Entrepreneurial Operating System, and basically the whole goal behind EOS is to develop a healthy company that lives according to your vision, to your mission, and your core values, right? So, and you use those values to hire, interview, train, you know, and terminate, right? They're not meeting those values. Like, you know, we don't, if they don't fit the values, then it's not going to work out, you know? And two of the values that I wanted to speak to that, like you guys were saying, like, well, what made you humble yourself to hire a business coach, right? Was that two of our values that we have is have an open mind to change and hunger for knowledge and education. Those are two of my values. If you go on my website, they're on there, you know? So having people around that see eye to eye with our core values is important. So we've been, it's called self-implementation. So we've been already holding the meetings the way that the EOS is, but I want to bring someone on board that is an actual EOS implementer for them to help us redefine our core focus, our core values, and so that we can start actually hiring, firing, and training as per.
And is the reason doing that for growth, to make sure that as you grow, you kind of all stay on the same path, or is it to kind of
it's for growth because
okay.
It's for growth because what ends up happening is I'm at the point where it feels like I'm losing control.
Yeah.
Right. So because I'm no longer involved in the day-to-day operations, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we're having these issues with these clients. Why clients are complaining or saying this and saying that, and it's because of the fact that, hey, we've outgrown mom and pop shop. You know, we have actual employees now, actual people, and we need to be tuned with the rhythm. We need a rhythm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And for that, you need processes, you need systems in place, you need to have good people that run the business.
And I assume that probably came from your military background of wanting to kind of like rein everybody in, make sure everybody is on the same path and the same mission, and kind of moving forward together.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I just wanted to underscore there, if you're talking about your succession plan being, maybe I sell, maybe that's in 15 years. People who buy a business are buying systems. They're not buying a Rolodex file, right? Of your clients. They're going to buy the systems that you have. So it's impressive that you're thinking that far out, because this EOS implementation could be, creating the systems that you are then going to sell if your sons don't inherit or your children don't inherit the business.
Right.
They buy systems.
Yeah, people buy systems. They don't buy, a landscape.
Yeah, I was going to say, buying a $10 million revenue business doesn't do much if there's nothing there to support it, sustain it, and maintain it. Yeah.
Support it. Yeah. That's cool, dude.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah. So let's get into, before we wrap up, Maricela's favorite piece here. This is the only part. I always tell people we're unscripted, but this is literally the only thing we do script.
Yeah.
She's got four rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
On the back of us trying to be a resource for anyone listening to this podcast, I always appreciate, Salvador, listening to podcasts where I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that, or oh, I'm going to try that little nugget that they handed down. And so to make sure that we are trying to be that resource, I asked the same guest that is on our podcast the same 4 questions. And Mike, I don't know if I've told you this, but like I've gone back and started to use some of these resources. Like I'm taking my own
I would hope so.
I need to be the biggest benefactor of
You'd be a
this.
Hypocrite if you didn't.
I would absolutely be a hypocrite. So I'm going to ask you the same 4 questions that I ask every guest that we have here. First question: what is one resource that you cannot do your business without? One resource that you cannot do your business without.
Human.
Well, that's everybody.
I was going to say, she used to quantify it and say that you can't say people or the internet.
You can't say people and you can't say Google. So. Everybody has those. Yeah.
So we're more looking for something resource that you use on a day-to-day basis, and
software.
What software?
I was going to say, I feel like that could,
What is the software that you use? I'm sorry?
I have a software for everything. So my scheduling, obviously Google Calendar is a software, so I use Google Calendar.
Do you use the whole suite? Do you use the whole Google suite, like the calendars, the email? Yep. That's really popular.
We use the Google Drive to do, like, you can find everything on our Google Drive. I use a software for designing. I use a software for estimating. I use a software for accounting, so a resource that is right now most valuable in our day and age is softwares,
Yeah.
And a lot of times, people could be overkill, and have too many softwares, but try to consolidate as much as you can.
I was going to say, have you found anything that ties a lot of those together, from the estimating to the accounting to the
estimating,
all that kind of stuff?
The estimating. So our estimating program and our QuickBooks sync up.
Nice.
So
nice.
That's a benefactor to using that. So I can send like all of my QuickBooks things to, all of my invoicing through QuickBooks for my software.
What's the name of the software that you use for your estimating?
Dynascape.
Dynascape. I haven't heard of that one. Dynascape. For any contractor listening right now and be like, I hate doing estimates. There has to be a better way. Maybe this
is it specifically for landscapers, or does it cross over to other trades?
They say it's specifically for landscape. Actually, hold on. Let me take that back. So Dynascape is essentially the design software that they have.
Right.
But they have Management 360, which is part of that. Okay. So it's Management 360 that I use from Dynascape.
Right.
They say it's for landscape only, but I can modify it to do other things. So as we're getting ready to pursue our general contractor's license, we're going to start another division through Dynascape and be able to bid.
GC, are you going into the residential construction business now?
Eventually, one of my goals would be to work with developers, learn how to develop and develop myself.
Listening to the market. I love it. Second question, Salvador. What's the best advice someone has given you?
Be humble and give glory to God, because the glory will return to you.
Amen. Amen. Love that. Number 8, number 3, third
number
question.
8. We only have 4.
Question number 3. Is there a book or podcast that you love that you would recommend to someone else? Book or podcast that you love?
If you're thinking of there's a bunch of books. But can I be more than one?
Sure, for sure.
Maybe 2. I think my 2. Oh man, there's never mind. It's 3. Never mind. It's 2. Okay. If you're
nerd, I love it. This guy's a nerd.
I'm not. So cool. I don't know.
Hey, dude, there's nothing wrong with being a nerd, man. You're running an over $2 million business by being a nerd. I ain't mad at you.
I got forced into becoming a nerd, you know? But anyways, one of the books is if whether you're in business or not in business is the E-Myth.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Definitely read the E-Myth.
Yep.
That will tell you whether you should be in business or not be in business.
Yeah.
And once you're already starting to run your business, I would say Traction is a good book.
I haven't heard of Traction.
By Gino.
There was somebody a few weeks ago who said Traction.
Really?
You guys will thank me later. Traction.
Yeah. Traction and E-Myth. E-Myth for sure. I think for anyone starting up a business who's in the infancy stage, E-Myth was a game changer for me when I read it. Really good recommendation.
And the last book for anyone, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh yeah, classic.
That's a must. That's a must for anyone. Yes. You know, it's really encouraging. Robert Kiyosaki, he's just amazing. I've read 5 other of his books.
Awesome.
You know?
Awesome. Those are good. Those are really good, Salvador. And the last one, what is one habit, or do you have a habit that is just for you? And I ask this question because you're a lot of things. I mean, you have a newborn child, a 4-month-old at home right now. You run a business. You're a husband. You're a son. You're a lot of things. But is there one habit that you have for yourself that gives you life?
One habit that I have for myself is, habit is, that's an action, right? I'm overthinking it, I know.
A student, dude. This is a student we got here.
Yeah.
I like to surf.
You like to surf?
I like to snowboard. I like to spend time with my family.
What does surfing do for you?
It's a release. It's kind of like a high. It's like a release. When you catch that wave, I know I sound like such a bro, but
go, bro.
When you catch that wave, bro, it's it's just this adrenaline that goes through you, you know?
Yeah.
And I get that.
Are you shortboard or longboard?
Short, mid, like short. It's more short than anything, you know? And I get that same adrenaline through snowboarding. So I think the habit that I have is balance.
But you find that balance through
not balancing on the board, you know.
but like
the work love play balance.
I'm just trying to process how you have a habit of balance if you don't feed yourself in certain ways so that you have that balance. Like clearly, like there's so much value in being a balanced person.
So, you know, I can't be the guy that is working 12, 15-hour days. Like I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'll work probably 4, maybe 6 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And then I'll go surfing in the morning. I'll come in, do this podcast, do a couple other things here in the office, go home, spend time with my kids, spend time with my wife, and then later go to church, you know, go out and go preach the gospel and, you know.
Preach? Like pastor style?
Yeah, so like one of the biggest things for our church is we go out there and preach, you know. Our belief's a little unorthodox. We believe not only in God the Father, but also God the Mother, and that's one of the biggest things that we're pushing right now as far as our church.
Wow.
You know?
Well,
so it takes effort to go out there and preach and let people know.
Dude, it's impressive. It's impressive. Yeah. And again, like Mike, we're talking about patterns and like connecting the dots. Salvador, I'm not to leave you out. We've been blessed with so many people, so many guests who have come back to the center of having faith and how it helps them. And it is their habit to keep them balanced. And it's really encouraging. It's really encouraging. Yep. That's all I got. Thank you for that information. Thank you for your time. Mike, you always like to give our guests the opportunity to share how.
Yeah. How can people get a hold of you or see what you guys do or reach out or give your plugs?
Yeah. I mean, you could reach us out at you know, if it's a client, pacificbreezelandscape.com, you should be able to reach us out from there, you know. If it's anyone that is seeking any type of advice and if I can give it, you know, reach out to me at sal@pacificbreezelandscape.com. I don't like to give my cell phone out because usually if I reply, my cell phone's in there anyways. Yeah. Yeah. So the email's best, and then I'll you know, go through my emails. But
and I love that you have that kind of open book, open door kind of policy too. I mean, this is episode number 38 of this kind of iteration. I did 150 of my previous ones, so almost 200 episodes in, and one of the most gratifying, unforeseen outcomes from doing this podcast is that connection between guests, my clients, right? Because I do insurance and I've got all contractors, obviously Maricela's clients and the people that she works with, but there's so much connection in that network, and that willingness to share and that thought process that has just been awesome. Because I mean, like you said, you know Justin, right? But like there have been plenty of former guests where like in the middle of the podcast, I'll be like, hey, you know what? You need to talk to so-and-so because they're going to help you out or they're going to do whatever. And that connection has been awesome. So on that, welcome to the family, our family, our little podcast family here. And know that while you are willing to kind of lay it out there and help where you can, it's reciprocated on our end as well. If there's anything you ever need,
absolutely.
The network is there, and we are willing to help out, and love doing that as well. So, thanks for your time,
Thank you, Salvador.
This has been amazing, Salvador, and stay safe out there.
Adelante.
Maybe we'll see you on the beach somewhere.
Adelante. Adelante.
Thank you. Absolutely. Anytime.
Later,
thank
bro.
you guys for having me. Yeah, let's hear it, bro.
Hang loose, bro. Nerd.
Have a good one, dude.
Later, man.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you had a good time, be sure to hit that subscribe button to get all the latest episodes. And if you had a really good time, leave a review to let us know what you thought. Until then, go gather some crazy stories on your job sites, and we'll see you next time on So, You Want to Be a Contractor.